So you were in prison for life.
Yes,
How come?
I killed somebody. When I was about 6 years old, my father came back into my life. He was an alcoholic, ex-gang member, heroin addict. So he would beat me and he would beat my mom. Nobody was there to protect us. And I would tell my mom, why are you praying to this guy? Where is he?
You mean God?
Yeah, I'm like, where is he? I don't see him. He's not stopping nothing. As long as I fight, my life changed.
How many years did this keep going on? Ignacio Paisano was in prison for life in San Quentin. He loved the gangs because they gave him value and word. And yet, he's sitting in the studio today because God saw him more worthy as he saw himself. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you were in prison for life.
Yes,
How come?
I killed somebody.
Wow. I'm not quite used to somebody just saying, I killed somebody on the show, but I love you just say it the way it happened. And I know there is, always regret or things
Yes,
have
of
changed.
course.
How did you get to that point? What happened before that?
Well, when I was about 6 years old, my father came back into my life. And at that point, I was a mama's boy. Mama was everything.
Mama was everything.
Everything. When my father came into the life and when he came, I didn't know if he was coming, you know what I'm saying? And I was out front playing with my friends and I kicked the ball and hit a car. And I say this because there's value to it, there's a reason for it.
Right.
But I took off running because the guy got out the car and started chasing me. When I was running home, I could see a guy in a car looking at me. And when I saw the guy in the car looking at me, to me, I thought, man, even at 6 years old, I thought, he looks like the devil. And I ran in the house to get away from the guy that was chasing me. Well, the very next day, I came home, and that car was now in my driveway. Whoa. So I go into the house, and that man that I saw in the car was sitting on the couch. That was my dad.
You had never met him on that point?
Well, I probably just met him as a baby, but I never met him, at that point. And so he was sitting there, and my mom says, I want to introduce you to your dad. And a lot was going through my mind. First thing was going through my mind is, I'm going to get a hug. I'm finally going to meet my dad. We're going to play baseball together. We're going to do all these different things. I was excited because, I was finally going to meet my father. And he looks at me, and his first words, he looks at me, he says, my sons don't run from no man. And I sat back, and I kind of looked at him like, whoa, what just happened? And I guess I teared up a little bit. He said, go to your room. You don't cry. Men don't cry.
That was the first encounter with your dad.
Father. Yes.
Immediately you were seen as a nobody.
Yes.
And sent off.
Yes.
Whoa, that's a tough start right from the beginning. So there's a couple of options at that moment. You're trying to earn his love, or you say, I don't care.
Well, I wanted him to love me so bad because I seen like my cousins' fathers were there in their lives and friends' fathers were in their lives, and I didn't have that. So I wanted that so bad. I mean, I really wanted it. So I wanted him to love me, but I didn't know how to get him to love me because everything about me was weak in his eyes. You know what I'm saying? Kid being bullied by the kids in the neighborhood, just different things, being close to my mom. And his eyes, I was a weak person, you know what I mean? And so when he was there, his solution to what I was, his solution to what my mom was, is to beat us. You know what I mean? He was an alcoholic, ex-gang member, heroin addict, drug dealer, and he's sitting in our living room. He's constantly.
Why didn't your mom kick him out?
Because she was terrified. She was scared of him.
Okay.
And he was a gang member. He's a vicious man. She had 5 brothers, and they were scared of him. None of them came and told him to leave. Nobody would tell him to leave because everybody was afraid of him.
Everybody, including the schools. Somebody must have seen something going on.
Nobody seen nothing. My mom was so terrified of him, she would keep it quiet. She would say, not tell everybody what was going on. She would tell us, just keep it quiet. Just don't say nothing because you're going to make him mad and he's going to end up beating us again. And so
he would beat you, your brothers, and your mom?
Well, my brothers were my stepbrothers. They were from his previous marriage from him. Okay. My mom had 2 daughters previous marriage. So and one of them was out of the house already. So he would beat me, my sister that was a little bit older than me, and he would beat my mom. And he was constantly cheating on my mom. He was always coming home with hickeys on his neck and, talking about these different women that he was being with in front of my mom, So he had no respect. He had very little respect.
As a child, you grow up with this. And there's almost a point you want to protect mom.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was tearing me up inside. Everything about what was going on, I was, hating him, hating my family, hating everybody because nobody was there to protect us. And I would tell my mom, why are you praying to this guy? Where is he?
You mean God?
Yeah, I'm like, where is he? I don't see him. He's not stopping nothing. You know what I mean? I would get angry because my dad would steal money, or the rent money, to go get high. He'd steal our food money to go get high. And nobody was doing nothing about it. So she keeps praying. I'm like, why? He's not doing nothing.
Now, how many years did this keep going on?
Well, that was from I got 6 years old to 12 years old. But at 8 years old, I started fighting. I started hitting him. And every time he hit her, I hit him. I wasn't doing nothing.
You were no longer afraid of him.
No, I became fearless when it came to him. I had no fear when it came to him.
That is because you're only 8 years old.
Yeah.
I have a 9-year-old granddaughter right now. You're not that big yet. You're really not.
Yeah.
So did he really whip you good
Oh
afterwards?
no, he treated me like a man. He beat me, he would sock me up. The first time that I stood up to him, he was beating my mom in the front yard when I came home from school. Everybody in the neighborhood's watching. Nobody's doing nothing about it. I ran up and I just started socking him. He turned around and beat me like a man. He left me. Left me bloody on the floor. My mom's hugging me. He goes in the house and he's yelling at my mom, come cook for me now. So she gets up, she goes in and cooks. I get up and I'm going to the bathroom to go clean up. He goes, come here. I said, what? He goes, come here. And I walked up, what? He goes, well, what'd you learn? I said, I learned that if you're hitting me, you're not hitting her. And that's all that matters. And I went to the room and I washed up and I told him, from that point, no matter what, every time you touch her, I'm coming. This was happening all the time. The only time it didn't happen is when his oldest son, my half-brother, would come over. He would never do anything. He wouldn't even get high. He would just sit there like quiet. And so I just started noticing that and I started thinking, you know what? I'm going to tell my brother everything. I'm going to tell him all that he's doing to us, but maybe he'll put a stop to it. Maybe he'll shut it down.
Right.
And so my brother said he was coming on Friday. Every time he said he'd come, he would show up. And so Friday I came running home. I was excited. I would see my brother. I'm in town word for word, exactly what my dad had been doing. And when I got there, as I was approaching my house, there was a lot of cars. And it was weird because nobody came over because of him.
Wow.
So I started seeing
I want to hear more about that.
Yeah.
I was like, you're ready to share with someone that somebody is going to deal with the ugliness and the awful things that are happening and abuse.
Yeah.
There's some of you out there right now that might be that are in desperate need of prayer. First of all, if you're not safe, get out. That is as simple, and go get help. The help is out there. Number 2, we'd love to pray for you. 855-515-5550 or go to barbtv.org. And I want you to know this. God is bigger than your circumstances. In 1 John 4, verse 4, it says, greater is he that is in me than he's in the world. Ignacio couldn't see that at that point, but yet he's sitting here today. Ignacio wants help. It's just about to happen. Stay tuned.
Are you ready to inspire and change lives? You can make a difference for a better tomorrow. God created you for more. You matter. There is an unprecedented pandemic of forgotten hearts. You can bring hope and answers. Inmates feel alone, afraid, and abandoned. Now is the time to find, to stand, to change, and transform lives. God loves them unconditionally. Adopt a Champion empowers inmates to be a champion within themselves, within their family, and in the world. There are 3 ways you can help. Become part of our team, pray, and donate. Together, we can make a difference. You can start today. Go to adoptachampion.org.
Ignacio Pisano had it with his dad, and he figured out every time his mom got beat up, he would go after it so he would get beat up instead of his mom. Finally, there is someone in the house, somebody that is going to listen, and he's so excited on this Friday day. And then, what happened?
When I came home, like I said, there was cars everywhere. when I walked in the door, my dad grabbed me by my throat, he picked me up in midair, he started choking me, and said, "It should have been you. It should have been you." Everybody's pulling me away, trying to get me away from him.
Wait, it should have been you for what?
My brother committed suicide.
Before you told him?
Yeah. When he was supposed to come that Friday, that Thursday night, he had committed suicide.
And it should have been you were your dad's words.
Yes.
And he's choking you at that moment.
Yeah. And he said it should have been you.
Did anybody help you that moment?
Well, everybody was trying to grab. My mom was grabbing me, trying to pull me off him. And the crazy part about that is because I was crying, I didn't want him to see me cry because I didn't want him to see my weakness. So I went and hid behind some trash cans. I was more worried about him seeing me cry than everything else that just happened. And so, yeah, my brother committed suicide, and so it got worse. He became more abusive. He blaming everybody. You know, he was just always drinking, always on using heroin, and it was battle. It was like a routine. And he beat my mom. I beat him. I fought back, and my mom's kind of knowing what's going on at home, but now she's realizing she's losing her son. Yeah. She's realizing the anger and the hatred that's going through me. That I'm, like her family disliked my father, so they disliked me. So I didn't have anybody I can go to. See, my mom had 2 kids from a previous marriage. He had 6 kids from different relationships. I was the only one from him and her. So I was by myself. I had nobody to turn to, nobody to look for.
What about the schools? You're bruised.
Schools they didn't say nothing. It became a lot of times I didn't not even going to school. I was just hanging out. I started hanging on the streets, not coming home for days. You know what I mean? And it was getting crazy. So my mom started saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go talk to the pastor's daughter. She seems like the only one that cares." So she went and talked to the pastor's daughter.
Was that for you or for her or for
me,
the both of you?
For me.
To get you out of there.
Because I was lost. My mom, amongst everything that's going on in the house, I'm starting to be lost. I'm angry. Everything he does, I'm coming. And I'm hating everybody. You started to use drugs.
Hurting people hurt people.
Yeah, and so she got me connected with the pastor and her husband, and they had 3 kids that they were like mentoring, and they got me in there, and one of them became like a girlfriend of mine, and I started going around them, and I started hanging with them. They started going to church. They would go to church, so I started going to church just because I wanted to be around the girl, but I still didn't believe in God. I still felt like, this guy's, our family's getting beat, we're getting abused. All these people around us got easy lives, but where's this guy my monkey's praying to? I mean, I don't see him. You know what I'm saying? And so, Angie, her name was Angie, used to talk to us about God and stuff, and I would listen, but really inside, I was like, I don't see the guy. You know what I mean? And so one day the church decided to take a Disneyland trip. So they all went on the bus.
The church went to Disneyland.
Yeah. But we couldn't afford it. Myself, my girlfriend, and the 2 other kids that the pastor's daughter and her husband were mentoring couldn't afford to go. So that they decided, okay, we're going to take our car and go to Disneyland and take these kids to Disneyland so they can go too. So that was a beautiful gesture by them, willing to sacrifice not going on the bus because they can go on the bus if they wanted to. But instead, they went by car. We go to Disneyland. On the way back from Disneyland, the car goes over a cliff.
No.
Everybody in that car dies, including my girlfriend, except for me and one other girl.
Oh, no.
And so they had originally called my mom and told my mom, "Your son passed away." And my mom, she's very religious. She believed in God so much that she used to tell everybody, "God told me my son will preach his word someday."
Prophetic word is so powerful. What's speaking in heaven, what is written about you in heaven, your mom prophesied over you and she would not accept anything else. The power of a praying mom.
Yes.
The power of a praying mom. So then what happened?
So then they obviously next day they called her and said, "Come get your son, he's alive." We go back home. The gang shows up at my house, got a lot of my friends. And they're bringing me, "Hey, are you okay? Or are you in a car accident?"
So you were in a gang at this point?
Well, I hadn't got in the gang. I had friends that were gang members at this point. But I wasn't quite in the gang yet. But they come to the door. They bring the drugs. It wasn't the right present, but at least they showed they cared. Well, my mom's like, please don't go with them. Stay, stay with me, go to church with me, please.
Now, was this a wake-up call? People died in the car you were in.
Yes.
It goes off a cliff, and yet God saved your life.
And I couldn't understand why.
But that has to do, I think, with you not understanding God as a father figure, because you did not know that God. You didn't understand. All you knew that beat you up.
But I didn't understand that I was mad at God for saving me, not them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when I went to church with my mom, people at the church said, for the second time I heard this, it should have been you that died, not the pastor's daughter.
Words make an impact. And right now, I want to smack those people because, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
First, your dad tells you that you're better off dead than alive. And now it is the people in the church that are saying that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder, but we've all said stupid things. So now you're feeling even less worthy, probably.
Yeah, I feel a lot more anger, a lot less believing in.
So where did you find your worth?
I didn't at that point. I had none. I walked away. I told her, I'm done with church. I'm done with this life. And I remember one day I went into the garage and I beat up this bag to where my knuckles were bloody and falling on the floor, and I had blood everywhere. And I said, nobody at this point will ever touch me or hurt me again. And I went to school and I ended up getting in a fight with some guy, and there was a lot of people there watching, and I beat him bad. There was a couple gang members standing there watching me. So they said, hey, you know what, that's pretty cool. Why don't you hang with us? So that's when I started really hanging with the gang. And I was still 11 years old and stuff. And I ended up getting jumped in the gang and became a gang member. I'm 12 years old now.
Wait, getting jumped? You have to get jumped to be able to become a gang member?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds not cool.
Yeah, well.
That sounds wrong to me. But you valued them because they seemed to.
Oh, well, they cared. The day that I got jumped in, okay, I go and there's 5 guys, right? And I'm told.
Jumped by 5 guys?
Yeah, you're in there for 1 minute while they fight you. And I'm told if you cover up or you perhaps protect yourself or run, you're worthless. They won't accept you. You have to fight.
I want to hear more. I'm like, I almost don't want to stop this right now, but stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. People tell me, Barb, I can't hear the voice of God. How can I hear His voice? I used to have a hard time with this too. I spent years learning the difference between my own head and God's voice. When I learned how, my life changed. Transformations that used to take me weeks now only take me seconds. I want to share with you everything I learned in those few years in only 3 hours at no charge. Go to our website, barbtv.org, and sign up for our free course titled Empower a Champion, Hearing the Voice of God. Many of you are struggling in life. There is hope. Our passion is for you to have breakthrough by clearly hearing the voice of God. Go to barbtv.org under the tab Empower a Champion and sign up today. To be accepted by the gang, Ignacio was going to be beat up by 5 gang members for 1 minute, and he had to fight back and could not cover himself up. But what happened next?
And so I remember the gang was there. There were the 5 guys, and I just started feeling all the anger, all the hatred, and I just when they said go, I just started letting them just throwing punches like crazy. I ended up knocking one down. I knocked another one down. Then I'm going trading blows with the other 3, and I could hear everybody screaming and yelling. And when it was over, one of the head gang members grabbed me and hugged me, and he was, "This is my guy. This is my guy." And then one of the older pretty girls grabbed me and kissed me on the cheek. "I'm proud of you." And these are things I've never heard. You know what I mean?
You must have just
I felt proud.
great, accepted.
And at that point, I used to try to talk to the girls. They wouldn't even talk to me. That day, the prettiest girl in the school said, "Can you walk me home?" And on the way home, she grabs my hand and says, "Will you be my boyfriend?" I thought I arrived. I thought this is what life's supposed to be, because as long as I fight, my life changed. And it did. It changed for the worse, but I thought it changed for the better.
That's a lie.
And because I believed in so much, I believed in the gang, I believed in everything they said, I believed in everything they did, because that was my family. I didn't want to be a part of the house family anymore. I lived on the streets. I would take off and be gone for weeks. And my mom's, poor lady, sitting at home crying and praying for me because she doesn't know where I'm at. Because we got this guy at the house to the point where I came home one day, my sister said, he did it again, he beat her again. And I went in the room and I pulled the gun out and I told him, it's time for you to leave. I'm the man of this house now. And he just looked at me and he said, what? I said, time for you to go. And he said, well, pull the trigger if you're a man. Go ahead. And I said, well, you know what? I'm not you. But if you ever touch my mom again, I'll kill you. Wow. He backed up and he left. But I was lost. There was nothing, at that point, I was using drugs. I was riding with the gang, hanging with a lot of older people, doing what they were doing. Nothing could make me come back. My she's bringing pastors to the house. They're doing I always joke around like, the shows where the mummies are all coming to the door.
Your examples are weird.
Because I'm in the room ironing my clothes, getting ready to go out and party, and I open my bedroom door and there's all these pastors like this with their hands in the hallway praying for me.
But prayer works.
Well, at that time.
It works.
Yeah.
And a praying mom, I tell you, is the most dangerous thing in the kingdom of God, or a praying grandma, because she won't quit because she knows God, even if she's abused like that. Did your dad ever come back?
I see my dad when I was 14. My mom called him because I was out of control. She called him up and said, hey, I need help. Help me save our son. He got on the phone, and I used to be really good at baseball, so he used that tool to get me to go stay with him.
You went to stay with your dad?
Well,
what were you thinking?
Well, he said he changed. He said, I'm changed. I'm living a better life now. I got a good job. There's some baseball things out here we can get you involved in. Why don't you, come out here?
But your mom was safe at that point.
She was saved, but she was scared because she couldn't control me. Nobody could. Nobody in her family, nobody had control of me. I would come home with guns, drugs, and set it on my dresser. I wouldn't hide them. I just put them, and I would tell her, don't touch my stuff. And I would go to sleep, get up and leave. When I would come home, there's times I didn't even come home. And so I was so out of control, so she sent me to go live with him. She thought by me staying with him that maybe I would change. Well, instead, he took me on a drug deal. Drug deal went bad. He starts shooting everything up. He gives me the gun and says, run. I took off running. I get caught by the cops. I'm in the back of the cop car. I see my dad, and he's laughing at me. You know what I'm saying? No. Yeah. And so I looked at him and mumbled, I'm going to kill you. You know what I mean? Because
I hope the cop didn't hear that.
Well, they probably, I don't know if they did it. I was angry.
You were so angry that moment, and yet they probably needed to hear that, Wow. So again, your dad betrayed you.
Yes.
Again, he wasn't there. And
Yes.
again, he's laughing that you get caught
Yeah.
while you're trying to go to him because he said he was a changed man.
Yes.
Disappointment after disappointment after disappointment, and a crying mom at home.
Yes.
Where did you go at that point?
I went back home. They expedited me from where we at Las Vegas back to San Jose. And I went home, but I was worse than I was when I left.
Was that possible at that point?
Well, it happened because I became very, very angry to the point where I ended up killing somebody. Wow. And
I know you don't give the details to protect your family, and I think that's the right thing to do. So you ended up in a fight or whatever happened.
Yeah, something happened, but I don't like talking about it.
So at that point, how old were you when you did that?
15.
15, and the anger and the rage and everything. And often people look, because we have a prison ministry ourselves with Adopted Champion, ministering to prisoners, meeting with them one-on-one, deliverance, healing, and yet your story has such an impact. Here you are at 15, you get caught, I assume.
Yes.
Now, are you scared, afraid, or nothing mattered anymore?
My biggest fear at that time was having fear.
Wait, what? Your biggest fear was having fear?
Yes, being afraid of my situation, not willing to stand up and be a man when I needed to be a man.
Because your dad said you were only worthy if you were a man.
Because of my homeboys in my neighborhood that I didn't want to let down. I didn't care about my dad.
Wow.
because I didn't want the people that used to look up to me, the cheer on me, the people that made me feel like I finally had a family, I didn't want to let them down. So I was going to be the strongest man that I could possibly be, even though I was still a kid.
And you had no idea what that looked like?
No, I didn't.
Except the gangs.
Gangs life, yes.
You get caught. What was it like when that police officer showed up and they knew it was you?
It was crazy. It was because I was sitting down talking to my mom in the living room.
Of course, mom
And
is to be there. Of course.
She's getting on me because I got kicked out of school. I was told, I was given my diploma, 8th grade diploma, and said, don't come back. And
Can a school do that?
well, they did it.
So, I can't blame them, to be honest, at this point.
I was out of control.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that point, when we were talking, all cops started coming through every door and through the windows, pulling me down, arresting me.
It was the whole.
Yeah, you know, they had me on the floor. My mom screaming at the top of her lungs, yelling, you know, he's just a baby. What are you doing? He's just a baby. And the cop said, well, your baby's wanted for murder. And then she's screaming at me, did you do it? Did you do it? And I didn't want to lie to her, say no, but I didn't want to say yeah because the cops were there too. So I just kind of put my head down and I went away. I went, you know, they gave me life in prison. And
Now, usually at the age of 15, they'll put you in juvenile hall.
yes.
Till you turn 18, and then you go. So did you first go to juvenile hall?
Oh, I was in juvenile hall, but then from juvenile hall, I went to county jail. At 16, I ended up in the county jail because of trouble I got into in juvenile hall.
Of course. I ministered in juvenile hall for 15 years. So, okay. So there's much more to this.
Yes.
And all you wanted to be was to have a dad that you never met.
Yes.
And that's what you turned out to be, your children. But now you're in prison for life. In prison for life, how does that work? How do you move on from something like this, which sounds like an absolute horror story? Let's be real. There's going to be a part 2 to this, and I want you to know Ignacio is sitting in our studio today. But how did he get there? Something happened that his mom did that he never thought would happen when she did something and actually turned her back on him and said certain words to a way that Ignacio knew he needed to change. You don't want to miss part 2. Stay tuned for the next episode. I've never heard of somebody at 17 going into San Quentin.
At that time, I was the youngest. I believed everything the gang told me. Hurting people, that was what we were supposed to do. Mom shows up, but I got in trouble the day before, so I was back at home. I was like, you know, hey, this is the way it is. I gotta be a gangster, you know. She just said, shut up. And she got up and walked out. When I went to my cell, I was in there by myself, and that's when I said, Jesus, are you real?
What was the response?